me come to where Jesus was. Now, this is how people, and this is how you rationalize. I've been reading my Bible. I was tithing. I was coming to church. I was doing right when I could have been doing wrong. I was even nice to people that I didn't even like. Now, before you praise Martha too much for running out to meet Jesus, you need to really understand what Martha did. The first thing she does when she gets to Jesus is put that old finger in his face. She puts her finger in his face and said, if you would have come when I called you, this wouldn't have happened. Martha did what my mama used to do when she called me and I took my time going to see what she wanted. She would take that old finger and put it in my face and give me a good tongue lasher. That's if she didn't take her shoe off. What Martha was saying is, here you are, come strolling up in here after the funeral. Mary and Martha gives us a perfect example of how we act when God doesn't do what we think he could have and what he should have done. Now, when you look at the text in your leisure, and I wish that you would do that, I want you to look at how many times the word believe shows up in the text. All I'm trying to get you to see is, when God doesn't do what you think he could and should do, it's not what you understand that gets you through. It's what you believe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's going to get you through. What's going to get you through the season that we're suffering in right now is what we believe, not what we understand. What's going to strengthen you and hold you and keep you sane is not what you understand with your head, but what you believe in your heart. That's what Jesus says we have to do when he doesn't do what we think he could and should do. Number one, you got to believe in his presence and his promise. Look at the text. Verse 21, Martha says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. Even now, I know that whatever you ask God, God will give it to you. Jesus tells Martha, your brother will rise again. Martha comes back to Jesus with what she was taught in Sunday school. She says, I know he'll rise on the resurrection. Martha sounds like most of us. We always come back with those old church cliches. The Lord won't put no more on you than you can bear. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. When God closes the door, he opens the window. Well, all that is fine, but that ain't helping me with what I'm going through with right now. Have you ever been where you knew that church folk meant good and meant well, but what was coming out of their mouth wasn't helping you with what you was dealing with in the right now? I like the way Jesus comes back. It's right there in verse 25. He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me will live, even though they die. Everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Then he asked a specific question. Do you believe this? Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Jesus is saying, do you believe I am who I am, even though your brother is dead? Do you believe that even when I don't do what you think that I should have done or could do you believe that I'm still God? Do you believe that I'm still loving and kind and compassionate and a deliverer? Do you believe who I am? Listen. Here's the point. Don't allow what you don't understand about God to mess up what you do understand about God.
Yes.
Don't allow one situation to make you doubt God. Don't allow him not doing what you think he could and should do, make you doubt his omniscience and his omnipresence. I know there are a multitude of pandemics going on at the same time. COVID-19 pandemic, the health disparity pandemic, the economic pandemic, the racial pandemic. But you can't allow any of them to make you doubt what you believe in your heart. Jesus is saying, I need to know if the worst thing should happen, that you still believe that all things work together for good of those that love the Lord. If the worst thing happens, I need you to believe that the Lord is my light and my salvation. If the worst thing happens, I need you to believe that no weapon formed against you shall be able to prosper. Jesus tells Mary and Martha, I need you to believe that I'm still who you believed I was before your brother died. Because every promise I made to you, I'm able to fulfill it.
Yes, sir.
Number one. When God doesn't do what you thought he should and could, what he could and should do, you got to believe in his presence and his promise.
That's right.
Number two, when God doesn't do what you thought he could and should do, you got to still believe in his power and his perspective.
Yes, Jesus.
Look at what Jesus said to the disciples back in verse 11. Our friend Lazarus is sleeping, and I'm going to wake him up. Now the disciples thought Jesus was using sleep as a metaphor for a non-fatal illness. Then Jesus come back and said, no, he's dead. Jesus said he's sleeping, and I'm going to go wake him up.
Jesus.
The disciples said, well, if he's sleeping, everything's going to be all right. He's going to get better. Then Jesus come back and said, no, he's dead. Why does Jesus at first say he's sleeping, then turn around and say, no, he's dead? Is Jesus confused? Is Jesus mixed up? Does he not know the difference between being asleep and being dead? Well, it's none of the above. Jesus is seeing Lazarus through the eyes of his power. He first said he's asleep, and I'm going to wake him up. It's not that Jesus is mixed up and confused. It's the disciples that are mixed up and confused.
That's right.
Because if it's left up to them and their power, Lazarus is dead. But if it's left up to Jesus, he's just sleeping. Oh, bless the name. If it's in your power, Peter, James, and John, he's dead. But if it's in my power, he's just sleeping. But when my hands are on it, and when my hands are in it, all things are possible. Jesus wants us to see it from his perspective. What you see as an enemy, Jesus sees as a footstool. What you see as fatal, Jesus sees as a new beginning. What you see as hell, Jesus sees as heaven on the way. What you see as pain, Jesus sees as a sufficient grace. Jesus is telling the disciples, from my vantage point and from my power, this thing here with Lazarus ain't nothing but a piece of cake. With all these pandemics going on, I know that you don't know how you're going to make it. I know that you don't know how you're going to make it through them. But it isn't up to you because it ain't on you. It's on Jesus. And if you give it to Jesus, he can have it. Look at the text. Look at the text. Jesus shows up, and when he shows up, we get the most famous verse in the Bible. Verse number 35. It says, Jesus wept. Now, it just kind of like stuck in there. Why would Jesus weep? The most common thought is Jesus wept because Lazarus was dead. Well, he didn't weep when he first got the word that Lazarus was sick.
That's right.
And he didn't weep when he knew that Lazarus was dead. And he didn't weep when Martha wouldn't come out the house to meet him. And he didn't weep when Mary got in his face. In verse 33 and 38, the Bible says Jesus groaned in his spirit.
That's right.
And it is this groaning that brings on the weeping. There is there's something going on in Jesus' spirit that causes him to groan. It's not that Lazarus is dead, because Jesus has power over death. Mary is there crying, and there's a crowd standing around her, and they're standing there as if this thing is all over. There's a crowd standing around saying, if you are all this and you're all that you say you are, why didn't you take care of this? If you can open blinded eyes and calm stammering tongues, why didn't you keep Lazarus from dying? What causes Jesus to weep is the crowd around him who doubted him. Notice. When Jesus first gets to the grave, neither Mary nor her crowd is with him. Jesus wept because their unbelief